Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's the author of Swing Kings, a sports writer for the Wall Street Journal, and the founder of the 30 newsletter. Please welcome Jared Diamond to the program. Jared, it's great to have you on. How are you?
It's great to be here. Thanks. I'm doing well.
So, Jared, are the White Sox World Series contenders, first off?
Look, if you're in the playoffs, by definition, you are a World Series contender because anything could happen in October. That's one of the beauties of baseball is that if you manage to survive the 6 month gauntlet that is the regular season, everyone really has a pretty close to equal chance of making it through October because suddenly we're talking about who's able to win, 11 baseball games, which is clearly something the White Sox are capable of doing. They're not playing great right now. You kind of generally like to go into the playoffs maybe playing better than they are, but it's also important to remember that they've essentially had the AL Central wrapped up for months. And I still believe that they have the ability to turn it on because this is a very, very good team, even though they've played in a pretty mediocre division.
So you're not concerned much about the record. It's 27 and 29 since July 20th. Is that a problem to you or no?
It's not ideal, and certainly a lot of people are going to point to the fact that the White Sox have been able to build up this record by playing 19 games against Minnesota and 19 games against Kansas City. And look, that's just a fact. It's true. They have had an easier time from a schedule perspective than some of these other postseason teams, especially some of those teams in the AL East that goes four teams deep. But it doesn't really matter once you get into October. Like, are you asking me, do I think that the White Sox have the ability to go win 3 out of 5 games from the Astros in 2 weeks? Yeah, of course they do. They absolutely do. We know the talent is there. They have all of those great hitters up and down their lineup. You have confidence in some of their starting pitching. There's no doubt they could go out and win 3 out of 5 games from the Astros, even if they might not necessarily be the favorites heading into that series.
What's the main driver for their success? What's going to help them propel past the Astros?
Look, they're going to have to pitch. That I guess, goes without saying. You need good pitching in the postseason. You know that Houston is going to go into October with a lot of experience, with a bullpen that has sort of been there, and you're going to need to rely on your bullpen a ton in the postseason. Every single team does. But look, the White Sox have a bullpen that you would think is October ready. That's why they went out and traded and acquired Craig Kimbrell to pair him with Liam Hendricks and Michael Kopech and Garrett Crochet and Aaron Bummer and all these other guys. They're going to lean very, very hard, I'm sure, on their bullpen in the postseason. You hope that you continue to get the performance from Lance Lynn that they've gotten all season. I would argue that Lance Lynn is the best starting pitcher that's going to be in that series, a guy that could give the bullpen a rest one game, which will allow the White Sox to lean really heavily on some of those relievers in the other games. And really in the playoffs, often it is which bullpen performs better. And you have to like Chicago's chances in a situation like that.
Are you worried about Kimbrell and his regression since they got him?
Yeah, he hasn't been great. This is not the first time we've seen this from Craig Kimbrell, where he goes through just like a little bit of a rough patch. We saw just in 2020 with the Cubs, he was pretty terrible. And then suddenly for the first half of this year, he was great. So yeah, look, it's concerning. You'd like to see him pitching better heading into the playoffs, but it could turn around quickly. I think about what's happening, here in New York with Aroldis Chapman, who was so great at the beginning of the season and then was so bad in the middle of the season, and suddenly, inexplicably, looks great again. And I have no idea. I don't think anyone really understands how that switch turned on and off. I think certainly the White Sox would like to see a couple good outings from Kimbrell here in the next 10 days or so. But so look, he definitely can do it. We know it's in there. It's just a matter of whether that he's able to push that button in the big moment.
Jared Diamond here on Sports Talk Chicago. Jared, what's the biggest problem the Sox could face in the playoffs?
Well, look, they are probably, at least some might argue, sort of the least accomplished team in terms of the schedule they face and in terms of really experience heading into the postseason. Houston, we know has been to two World Series. Tampa Bay was in the World Series just last year. You look at the other American League teams, whether that's Boston, whether that's New York. These are teams that have really been there. The White Sox have not. They have a lot of sort of young players. Yes, they had a little taste of the postseason last year, but certainly not under the circumstance. They're going to be going to the postseason this year. So you do wonder how some of these younger guys are going to respond. The Eloy Jimenez's, the Luis Roberts, even the Tim Andersons, just being on that big stage for the first time. But we've seen young teams that don't have a lot of experience thrive. So maybe we'll see that these guys are ready to thrive and rise to the big stage. And like we were just talking about before, I think getting Craig Kimbrell right will go a long way. Maybe it's too late for that to happen, but look, there's still 10 days or so to go in the season. I think that's enough time for him, hopefully, to figure out what's ailing him at the moment.
Which teams are you most concerned about in getting in the Sox way and possibly knocking them out?
Well, you're starting with Houston, which is not not exactly a pushover, right? This is the team that was in the World Series 2 years ago, was in the World Series 4 years ago, was shockingly close to going to the World Series just last year, which I think people forget that because the Astros really weren't that good in the regular season, the shortened pandemic season, and yet they went to set the game 7 of the ALCS against Tampa Bay. So look, that's really scary. Every team in the American League postseason field is really good. Houston is one that's particularly frightening just because that these guys, the Altuves, the Correas, the Bregnans of the world, they always kind of elevate their performance in October. They've been doing it for years, and that's very, very scary when you're facing a team that's going to have a lot of confidence, a lot of experience, and an extensive track record of success on the biggest stage. And that's really what Houston has.
Do you see Houston winning the pennant, or who do you see winning from the AL?
It's funny. If you asked me to pick right now, like the playoffs are tough. They're a crapshoot. They're really hard to predict. But if you ask me right now who I think is going to win the American League, I do think it's going to be Houston. Tampa Bay has been great all year. They're kind of scuffling a little bit right now. They're not sort of playing at their best. I know personally I would love to see a Houston Tampa Bay rematch in the LCS. I know the people in Chicago listening to this don't want to hear that, but that was such a great series last year. Those two teams going to 7 games that I wouldn't mind as a baseball fan seeing it again. And I really do like Houston. I just think they're a great team. They've gotten incredible starting pitching from unexpected places. Guys like Framber Valdez and Jose Urquidy and Luis Garcia. These aren't exactly big names. They've all been very, very good. Lance McCullers Jr. has been very, very good. And of course, that lineup, they're scary. And I think they also have something to prove because they know that, everybody still hates them and there's a lot of eyeballs on them. And they really seem to have embraced that role as baseball villains. And frankly, I think that's good. I think it's good when sports have a villain, when there's a team that the nation rallies against and that team embraces that role and sort of feeds off that sometimes negative energy. And I think the Astros do a very, very good job of filling that role.
Let me ask you this, Jared. Let's say the Astros beat the White Sox. The White Sox are eliminated. Would you still consider their season a success?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure there's some White Sox fans that won't see it that way, which to me is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. This is a team, that's built for the long haul, that is just the beginning of its window. This is the team that's still figuring out how to win, how to succeed. And this was a huge step in that direction. And I just don't see how anyone could say otherwise. We've seen some of these young players put together these really excellent performances, the kind of performances you want to see. And they've done this, by the way, with Eloy Jimenez injured for a lot of the season, with Luis Robert injured for a lot of the season. Those are the two guys one might argue are the biggest pieces sort of moving forward in the future. So I don't see how anyone could say that a 90 win season, which the White Sox will likely have, is anything but a success. I'm sure there's some disappointment that they haven't gone out and won 95 games. They're not going to win 100. Maybe they hoped for more, but they're about to win the division for the first time in how long? I'm sure there's a lot of White Sox fans that could easily pull that year out of their head. They haven't won a division since 2005. I mean, it's been, or 2008, I should say. 2008 was the last time they won the division. It's been over a decade. I'm talking about 13 years. To get back to the top of the AL Central, to open up this window and to start continuing moving forward with this young core that everyone's so excited about. It's absolutely a success. And by the way, like I've said at the beginning of this, there's no reason they can't go out there and beat the Astros. I do believe that you put a team under the bright lights suddenly, they no longer are sort of cruising. They're in games that really matter, and the team's able to turn it on. There's no doubt that they have the talent.
Jared Diamond here on Sports Talk Chicago. Jared, who's your pick for AL MVP?
Man, oh man, like I think there's a lot of people out there suddenly that are really on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. train, and like it's hard to argue with them. In any other year, this wouldn't even be a conversation. The guy's having absolutely incredible season. A near triple crown caliber season, nonetheless. In spite of his sort of struggles at the plate in recent weeks, I think it's really hard to pick against Shohei Ohtani, just because what we're seeing is so unprecedented. I mean, we're literally talking about something, not only something that no one's ever done before, but something that until now, no one believed was humanly possible to happen. The guy has 45 home runs. He's going to have over 100 RBIs. He has 95 as we sit here today on Wednesday afternoon. So barring a real meltdown, he's going to have 100 RBIs. Plus, oh, by the way, he has a 3.28 ERA. He struck out 146 batters in 123 innings. It's completely insane what he's done. And I'm sorry to Blue Jays fans out there. It's not a criticism of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The guy's having an insane season. He's one of the best young players in baseball. But if I were voting, which I do not, being a Wall Street Journal reporter, we do not vote for awards. But if I did, Shohei Ohtani would be my vote. And don't worry, if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you have a chance to get the last laugh. The Angels are going nowhere, and the Blue Jays are very likely going to the postseason. So I'm pretty sure Guerrero would trade the MVP for a chance to win a World Series.
Is the Triple Crown significant, though? Like, if Guerrero actually gets the Triple Crown, does that change your mindset at all?
I would love the discourse if that actually happens, if he is able to win the Triple Crown. Look, it has happened before that players who won Triple Crowns did not win MVP. It happened. It's not completely unprecedented. It's unusual for it to happen, and the only way it could happen is that if somebody does something even more impressive than winning a Triple Crown. And honestly, like hitting 50 homers and being an ace starting pitcher in the same year, that's even more rare than winning a Triple Crown. Really, it actually will take something completely unheard of and unimaginable for that to happen. And that's what Ohtani's done. Anyway, I'm not sure the Triple Crown is going to happen. That RBI, I think those RBIs are going to be tough at this point. Guerrero's he's quite a little bit behind. I think it's going to be a tough road for him to get that RBI crown.
What about Royals fans who claim Salvador Perez deserves a shot? What do you say to them?
Look, he's had an amazing season. He's had an amazing. Like, I do not understand how Salvador Perez has 46 homers, 115 RBIs. I don't think anyone does. It's completely insane. He's a 31-year-old catcher. He's appeared in 151 games, some of which at DH, but nonetheless, 151 games as a regular catcher. At 46 homers, 115 runs batted in. He's 31 years old. It's completely insane. Don't know how it's happened, but he's not going to win MVP. I'm sorry. He's a despite the great performance, he's, let's say, a distant third.
How about in the National League? Who do you like winning there?
I think Bryce Harper has now uh, separated himself a little bit from Fernando Tatis. I think there was this sort of feeling for a while earlier in the season that it was going to come down to, well, whichever team made the playoffs, that's who was going to win MVP, whether it was Tatis or Harper. Well, neither of them are making the playoffs. It looks like, and the Padres collapse has just been so monumental and so public and so unexpected that I think, by no fault of his own, I think it's going to be really hard for Tatis to win MVP. He's had an unbelievable season. He has been the bright spot in what has been an unbelievably depressing year in San Diego. I mean, the fact that they're not going to make the playoffs is shocking. And really, talk about a season that's a failure. That season has been a failure in San Diego, a big debacle. And Bryce Harper has been unbelievable. I mean, he leads the majors in OPS as we sit here today. He's a 313 batting average. He has 33 home runs. And the other thing that he has is the games played. We know that games played is an important consideration when you're talking about MVP. Bryce Harper's played in 130. Tatis has played in fewer. I don't even think he's played in 120 as we sit here today because of the shoulder injury. He's at 118 games. We sit here right now. So if I had a vote for that, Harper would be my guy. This is his best season since 2015. And it's a good reminder, by the way, that Bryce Harper is really, really good, because I think people sort of forgot that a little bit.
How do you explain the Padres collapse?
Talk about everything going wrong. This will be dissected all winter long, clearly. Look, they've had a lot of injuries. Let's not forget that. They've had a lot of injuries. Not all of this has been their fault. They didn't have Fernando Tatis for a long time. They've had injuries in their starting pitching, but really just as much as they've had underperformance. I mean, Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, who are supposed to be these big 1A, 1-1A aces to pair with Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado, have not been good. Their ERAs are both comfortably over 4. Darvish in particular has been really bad lately after a very, very good start. So while Tatis and Machado have certainly held up their end of the bargain, they've both been great. Pretty much no one else has. And it's not just Darvish and Snell that have been problems in the rotation. While Joe Musgrove has been very, very good, Chris Paddock has been disappointing, and Dinelson Lamet's been injured and not very good when he's been healthy. Really, everything that could have gone wrong besides Tatis and Machado has gone wrong with them. It certainly hasn't helped their case that the Giants sort of come out of nowhere to have the best record in the majors. Nobody saw that coming, but the reality is the Padres have as much talent on their roster as any team in baseball, and now they're fighting just to finish 500. And it really has been a failure, and they're going to head into this offseason now with a lot of soul searching to figure out how they ended up in this situation, because I certainly didn't see it coming.
Do you see changes coming this offseason? Is Jace Tingler on the hot seat?
It's hard to imagine him coming back. And look, I don't really know Jace Tingler because of the realities of the pandemic, right? He started as the manager of the Padres in 2020. There was no real media access in 2020. And here we are again, 2021. We're still not in the clubhouse with these guys. So personally, I've not had a chance to ever interact with Jace Tingler outside of Zoom. So I don't feel qualified to say much about him personally, but just common sense tells you that when you have a team with as much hype as this, with as many expectations as the Padres did, to combust in this way, of course they're on the hot seat. And I expect if he loses this job, the Padres are going to look for someone with a little more experience, sort of a Buck Showalter, Bruce Bochy type, to try to get this group in order.
Jared Diamond, still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Jared, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, the 30 newsletter. How did it start?
Yeah, so the 30 is a collaboration with me and a good friend, Mike Vorkunov, who covers the NBA for The Athletic. And about 5 years ago, we had this idea of talking to some sports writer friends of ours and doing little interviews, asking them questions about their careers and about the industry, just sort of as something that maybe for aspiring sports writers, people that were interested in sports media to check out to get a sense of how people got into this crazy business and how people's careers developed. And we started doing that and posted them on a blog. And yeah, people started reading them. To our surprise, there was some interest. So we decided to sort of build it out from there, start a newsletter, make the Q&As sort of a main feature of a journalism newsletter. We eventually added journalism job listings. We now, every issue, have dozens and dozens of journalism job listings. And it's become sort of a place for people that want to be journalists, people that care about journalism, to support other journalists and future journalists, and that's sort of what we've been doing. We've been doing it for 5 years. We have thousands of subscribers. We have a Patreon that's been way more successful than I ever could have imagined. So it's been a fun little side project, to say the least.
What's the best Q&A you've had for it?
Oh man, the best Q&A. Oh my goodness, there's been so many good ones. Let me see. Well, one that comes to mind right away is Adam Rubin, who used to cover baseball for ESPN, and then it was no longer working for ESPN, and we did the Q&A. That one was pretty interesting because he kind of gave us the dirt on ESPN. That one was really fun, just to hear him sort of give us the inside scoop of ESPN. Yeah, we had Alan Sepinwall. That was a really good one. Used to cover Donald Trump for CNN, formerly the Toronto Star. That was a really good one. I mean, man, there's honestly so many. It's almost hard for me to remember them all, but those are a few that come to mind.
Jared, before we finish up today, last question. How rewarding is it to be a dad?
It's been great. I'm a dad of two now. I have twins who are just shy of 6 months. It's been a crazy year. I haven't been working for a good chunk of this baseball season, but if I have to miss a baseball season, this is a good reason to do so. It's been a blast, and I hope that my wife is ready for me to do some traveling in October and spend some time alone with them. I think it's going to be okay, but yeah, it's been a wild 6 months here, and high recommendation for anyone who's interested in being a parent. It's been worth it.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you on. Best wishes moving forward, and can't wait till we catch up again soon. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks a lot.